Good morning, everyone, and welcome to thoughtbot Open Summit 2025. We are thrilled to have you with us here today, whether you're joining from home, from work, a coffee shop, or somewhere else entirely. Thank you for being here. Very briefly, my name is Jared Turner, and I'm a Senior Product Manager at thoughtbot.
And I'm Rémy Hannequin, Senior Developer at thoughtbot as well.
And together, we're kicking off what we think is going to be an incredible day. Today is a celebration of open source software, of the communities that build it, of the companies that depend on it, and of the individuals who contribute to it. Open source has shaped the way we build software, and today we're here to honor that and push it forward. But before we dive in, you might be wondering, what makes thoughtbot Open Summit different from other virtual conferences? This isn't just a day of talks to listen to. thoughtbot Open Summit is hands-on, it's interactive, it's about getting your hands dirty and making real contributions to real projects. Today, you have the opportunity to pair with the maintainers of FactoryBot, Administrate, Superglue, Belt, and more. You'll solve real issues in real time. You'll learn directly from the people building the tools your team already depends on. You'll hear from ecosystem leaders like our own RG Slater and Chad Pytel, plus special guests like Tim Riley of Hanami and Justin Bowen, creator of Active Agent. These aren't just talks, they're conversations, workshops, and live coding sessions. This event brings together seasoned open source maintainers and senior developers who want to level up, while also welcoming the next generation of contributors. There's a place here for everyone, no matter where you are in your open source journey. So, let me walk you through what's happening today. All times are referenced in UTC. At 9:30 a.m., that's us. You are here already. As well as walking you through the rest of today's agenda, Rémy and I will be giving you a quick whirlwind tour of the history of open source. We'll trace thoughtbot's relationship with open source, and we'll explore the role of open source in successful products, all in 30 minutes. Straight after this, at 10 a.m., Hanami creator Tim Riley showcases us an alternative way to use Ruby, joined by Sarah Lima. Then at 11, learn about Belt, a tool that accelerates new React Native projects, as Rakesh Aaron and Tomi Alu code live with you. At noon, you will witness thoughtbot history as Nick Charlton and Pablo Prezero ship Administrate 1.0 live during the session. They'll dig into the code, discuss complex use cases, and take your questions and requests. At 1 p.m., Svenja Schaefer will help you sharpen your pattern matching skills in an interactive workshop on regular expressions, joined by Sarah Lima. After a break for lunch, we'll resume at 3, where Neil Carvalho and Jose Blanco will take you behind the scenes of FactoryBot, showing you how to extend it with custom strategies for your own unique use cases. At 4, join a candid panel discussion with Rémy, Nick Charlton, Johnny Ho, and Elena Notario about the challenges and opportunities in the next chapter of open source. At 5, a Rails way of building React Rails applications. Johnny Ho is joined by Sally Hall to present an exciting new way to work. Then at 6, Justin Bowen and Chad Pytel will lead a live workshop on implementing AI agents in back-office Rails apps. And finally, stick with us because at 7 p.m., RG Slater closes out the day with an inspiring talk on the golden ages of innovation and where we fit in. Throughout the day, join us in Discord, ask questions, share your progress, connect with others, and be part of the conversation. So, that's the day ahead. We're excited. We hope you're excited. Now, let's dive into why we're all here. The incredible, powerful, transformative world of open source software. Starting with a little bit of history.
We usually underestimate how much open source is all around us in many of the tools we use every day. You are watching this talk on a device which operating system is mainly running on open source software. The web browser you are using is very likely to be open source based, and the visual components to draft the web page are often based on open source libraries as well. But do you know what open source means exactly? So open source relates to software for which the source code is publicly available. But this means anyone is entitled to view the code, make it their own, modify it, and then distribute it to anyone. With shared code, we increase the opportunity for users, developers, managers, anyone to read, understand, and contribute to shared knowledge. But do you know exactly when it started? Actually, it was always there. Open source is not directly linked to a philosophical change. It was the way of sharing software when computing started in the early 60s among researchers. The churn arrived in the 80s when companies started selling licenses and proprietary and closed source software. The community started taking it back with initiatives founded by Richard Stallman. For example, in 1985 was created the Free Software Foundation. And in the same years, the GNU project was created to develop and publish free software. One of the first copyleft license was created, the GNU public license. But in the end, what does open source really mean? What's the deeper philosophy? The main philosophy is to see knowledge as something that can grow bigger when shared. Instead of developing private and proprietary initiatives, the humanity benefits more from group efforts publicly available. The key values start with transparency. Anyone should be able to look at the code, and there are no backdoors. Global communities co-create code and review it through collaboration. And then good ideas win based on quality, not hierarchy. So this is a meritocratic system. And finally, people are not locked into one vendor or one product. In a nutshell, open source sees software as a shared good for humanity. Finally, what can we say about the state of open source today? Open source is absolutely everywhere in computing, from operating systems like Linux, databases like PostgreSQL, real-time communication used by open source web browser like Chromium and Firefox, and finally using backend and front-end languages and frameworks. This leads to a mindset that influences other initiatives like shared data, shared scientific research, the ability to create and build software oneself, and even seeing education as a common tool. Open source is a way to build the future together. And now let's learn a little bit about the history of open source, but this time at thoughtbot.
So, I hope it comes as no surprise that thoughtbot loves open source. We use an incredible amount of genuinely wonderful open source software. We have our core stack of Ruby, Rails, and Postgres, with a dash of Redis and React Native for mobile. Our experience continues to tell us that these tools allow us to bring products to market more quickly and with a lower total cost of ownership than others. We contribute upstream to projects big and small whenever we find the opportunity. Why waste a good solution in private when you can share it with the community? We produce a bunch of open source software, some of which you may use yourself, and for which we take great pride in adding some value or saving some time in your day. Ancillary to the software itself, we produce content to support it, as well as sharing generally through our blog, books, and podcasts. We take great pride in having completed the full cycle of open source software by having sunset a few of our libraries, which have now been solved upstream. As we all know, naming is one of the hardest things. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to my personal favorite thoughtbot open source namings. Naming one thing is hard enough, but a whole family of related tools. We have the Bourbon family of libraries, which delivered a delightful cocktail of tools, grids, and garnishes. And their legacy is being continued with Rue, a new open source project being announced today by Elena Notarié. And a special shout out to a lesser known but gloriously named Art Vandelay, an importer-exporter by Steve Polito. To provide a bit more history, I wanted to find out what thoughtbot's very first open source release was. And I thought it would be easy. I would consult the Oracle, look at thoughtbot's repositories, filter by public, include archived, sort by created, and there I had my answer, or so I thought. 2008 appeared to be the year. The only trouble was, all this actually told me was that this was the year GitHub launched. Even Git itself was only released in 2005, so leaning on the repositories themselves was still no good. With technology failing me, I decided to consult the real oracle of thoughtbot, our founder and CEO, Chad Pytel. And he told me a tale that went way, way back. Actually, he sent me a link to the Wayback Machine, and this link took me to thoughtbot's website from 2003. And if you squint under the menu, you can see the option to download our very first open source program, aptly named InvoiceBot. InvoiceBot was a custom time tracking, quotation, and invoicing system written in Perl and MySQL. It was what was used in-house for all of thoughtbot's invoicing. Now, thoughtbot frequently utilizes open technologies and open source software to deliver outstanding results to our clients. Because we believe in the success of open source, we sometimes release original programs which we have developed as open source. That quote, which I just read out, is a direct quote from the InvoiceBot landing page from 2003. But it could well have been written today because it is just as relevant and just as true in 2025. And I tell you this tale for a couple of reasons. Thoughtbot is old, older than GitHub, older than Git. Thoughtbot is old enough to drink. And in July 2003, only 1 month after the company was started, we released an open source tool because we believe in open source and the benefits it brings. And since then, we've never stopped. And who knows what comes next? If you stick with us throughout today, You will be lucky enough to attend sessions on 5 of these projects by their maintainers. So now let's learn a little bit about open source in successful products.
We've talked about the history of open source and how thoughtbot has embraced it for over 2 decades. But now let's talk about something that matters to all of us in this room, building successful products. How does open source actually fit in that equation? Let's start with how open source fuels successful products. First and foremost, speed. When you're building a product, you're not starting from zero. You stand on the shoulders of many giants. Think about Rails. Out of the box, you get basic authentication, background jobs, database migrations, even a testing framework. Things that used to take months to build are now just one bundle install away. This means you can focus on what makes your product unique and not reinventing solved problems. Here's something we see with our clients time and time again: lower total cost of ownership. There are no escalating license fees as you grow, no vendor lock-in where you're at the mercy of a single company's roadmap or pricing changes, no proprietary constraints limiting how you can deploy or modify your tools. You're also getting access to battle-tested code. These libraries are running millions of deployments worldwide. They've been reviewed by thousands of contributors. They've been validated in real-world production environments at scale. If we take FactoryBot, which thoughtbot has become quite famous for, and which has close to 300 million downloads, that's 300 million opportunities to find edge cases, report bugs, and improve the code. The bugs you might encounter, someone else probably already encountered them and fixed them and contributed those fixes back up. So yeah, you are just simply a version bump away from having your problem solved. Now let's flip it around. How do successful products fuel open source? When your product succeeds, something interesting happens. You encounter real problems, problems that need solving, and after solving enough of them, patterns emerge. That's when you can extract and generalize the solution and decide to share it if you want. Think about Basecamp. Their success led to Rails, Turbo, Hotwire, and more. Shopify's growth gave us Polaris and Liquid, and as well as countless improvements to Ruby and Rails themselves. Facebook gave us React and React Native, and so many more stories. Pretty much all of Thoughtbot's own open source has followed the same flow. There's also a business angle that we should not ignore. Companies that contribute to open source build credibility. That's a signal that you know that what you're doing, and you're not afraid to show your work. And it helps you to attract talent. Developers want to work at places where they can contribute to open source, where their work has impact beyond a single company. Contributing to open source also creates community around your product. Users become contributors, contributors become advocates, advocates become customers or employees. Open source can even make you money. I have personally been working for a while on an astronomy library called Astronomy, and you might think this is just a hobby and nobody really cares about doing astronomy in Ruby. And this is true, but not entirely. Recently, a client found and showed Thoughtbot specifically because they saw the gem and knew we could handle their project. All of this virtuous cycle that proprietary software simply cannot replicate. But let's be honest for a moment. Open source comes with its own set of challenges as well.
For starters, the maintenance burden is real. Someone has to triage issues, review pull requests, manage releases. Users bring expectations. They expect support. They expect documentation. They expect timely responses. Security vulnerabilities need to be addressed quickly and responsibly. And there's the broader challenge of sustainability. How do you keep a project healthy long term to avoid this reality? Unmaintained software represents a serious risk, and companies benefit from millions of dollars of value, while individual maintainers can struggle to find time and resources. But let's not leave on a downer. Sure, we want to base things in reality, but this is still a day of celebration for open source. So let's talk about what you can do if you want. Got an itch? Go on and scratch it. Don't worry about solving for others. Solve your own problems and put it out into the world. Others may find them useful, or they might not, but just the act of doing this is a tremendous learning opportunity. When I earned my stripes founding a failed startup, I realized I needed a way to generate URLs that would add an event to your calendar. And I assumed someone would have already solved that problem. And to be fair, there were a few options out there, but the available options were either massively outdated, unmaintained, or they didn't work particularly well. So I scratched my own itch and I built my very first Ruby gem. I had no idea what I was doing, but I got it working, made sure the thing was tested to the nines, even if my code was probably awful, and eventually worked out how to publish it. I released it to the world, used it to solve my own problem, and that was mostly it. But I learned a lot. And over time, I've even had some community contributions. All in all, I have had the ground total of one bug report, two feature requests, 5 coffees bought for me, 6 lovely people have been generous enough to submit PRs, 95 stars, and somehow, and I'm genuinely still awestruck by this, over 500,000 downloads. Now, this gem is in no way going to change the world, and I'll freely admit to being a somewhat mediocre maintainer, occasionally taking weeks to respond. But honestly, it feels good to know that a bunch of people around the world are getting some value out of this thing I made. So go on, scratch that itch. And for some practicalities while you may be at work, review your dependencies. Highlighting dependency risk is a great way to convince your company to devote time, money, and resources to open source problems. Just saying. Maybe your company can provide sponsorship to some of the crucial open source software that you use. But equally, time is just as valuable. If you fix a bug or add a feature internally, see if it makes sense to contribute it back upstream. And here's the thing, it's not just about being nice, it's about building sustainable software. Software that will be here for the long haul, software we can all depend on. Open source and product success are intertwined. We build better products through open source. We build better open source through successful products. And together, we all benefit.
So thank you for listening. We hope you we hope you're going to have a very exciting rest of the day. Now be sure to stick around because up next we have Tim Riley discussing Hanami. Have a great day at Thoughtbot Open Summit